with me in the studio, God's servant, who is going to be answering questions from you today. Some questions have come in through the links that we made available, and we also have questions coming in from our line on WhatsApp. And of course, in the course of the program, we will be opening up the line for you to call in. And you know what? God's servant, Reverend Tony Audu, resident pastor of RCN Embassy, is here in the studio to do justice to your questions. Thank you, Reverend Tony Audu, for coming on the program today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
All right. So let's hit the ground running. We have a question coming in from Nchiakelang, Cameroon. Is it biblical for women to put on trousers and minister in church?
Looking at this question is still around an age-long controversy. And I believe the main meat of this question is not about trouser, but indecent dressing.
Okay.
I had to search out the coldest regions of the world. And that is the Arctic region, the Arctic plateau of the Antarctica. The temperature usually is around minus 94 degrees Celsius.
Wow. Minus.
Even when the temperature is around 10 degrees Celsius, you still need to be properly covered.
Okay.
If you live in those regions. So looking at this question, you want to find out God's mind about humanity.
Okay.
Way back in school, we had this Sister Christy, a very wonderful lady. I never saw her put on trousers in school on campus. And when she relocated to the UK for her master's, the next set of pictures that we saw flying around were pictures of her in trousers, in fact, in some kind of crazy kind of shoes, well covered. And I was wondering what has happened to Christy. It is the environment.
Okay.
Where Christy now is, if you go to the southern hemisphere, and then the global east is extremely cold in those regions.
Yeah.
If there is a female minister in Antarctica, is she expected to put on skirts or to put on trousers while preaching? In fact, the dress orientation in these regions require that you wear 3 layers of dresses.
Wow.
There is an inner one that absorbs sweat, moisture from your body. There is a middle layer that conserves heat. Then there is an outer layer that is like a wind protective.
Okay.
So when we are talking about trouser, no trouser, if you are within the African context, especially the West African context, you may not understand certain climatic touch to dresses, and then you want to impose. In all of scriptures, there is nowhere it is said that a woman cannot wear trouser.
Okay.
Deuteronomy 22 verse 5, which we always would have on, that a man should not put on the things that pertains to a woman should not put on the things that pertains to a man, but we don't have specifics. We were not enumerated for what is a man's dressing, what is a woman's dressing. That leaves the cultural touch to it. If you go to the south part of Nigeria, men wear wrapper, they wear skirts. If you go to Scotland, the official part of the dresses that men wear, ceremonial dresses, is skirts.
Yes.
Whereas down here in the Africa, skirt is exclusively known to be for
feminine
women.
gender.
So the main issue is not going to be about whether a woman wears trousers or a woman does not wear trousers. It's the matter of decency. And that the Bible is explicit on. There is an attire called the attire of a harlot. When you dress, the philosophy of dressing according to Exodus 28 is for glory and for beauty.
Okay.
Whenever a child of God dresses, we should see the glory of God reflected, and we should see the beauty of God. But when you dress to seduce, you dress to suggest, you dress to distract, and all of that, and then people are in church, they cannot now have an undistracted worship experience. You have become the focus. That is why you have a dressing that has gone wrong.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Let's move over to Kenya, where we have this question coming in. Good afternoon, sirs. It is always a privilege to be hearing from you. My question today is, can one intercede for their country alone? Because there is a day, Reverend Tony, that's talking about you now. Yeah. We're teaching on the science of altars, and you said that you were praying alone over the university and demons came to attack you. Does that mean that one cannot pray for their country alone?
The Ephesians chapter 6, I read from verse 12. There are many mistakes that we make as we engage in the practice of intercession. There are I battles and there are we battles. There are I wrestle and there are we wrestle. There is a time where Apostle Paul was giving us kind of a brief on his experience, and he said while he was at Ephesus, he said after the manner of men, he wrestled with the beast after the manner of men, and that was Paul engaging in that. But when you get to Ephesians chapter 6, he said, "For we wrestle not." There are certain battles that are better fought as a body. God empowers the body of Christ. He said, where two of you are gathered in my name, 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I am there in their midst. And whatsoever any 2 or 3 of you shall agree upon, it shall be done. That word done, it shall be constructed if it doesn't exist. Okay. It means if myself, Pastor Gabe, and someone else will say, okay, we want a matter addressed. If that does not exist physically yet, God is going to bring it about, and this is because of the power vested in the church. It is a gate. It is a church that the scripture says the gates of Hades cannot prevail against. Okay. So, if you are going to pray for your nation, I would encourage you. Yes, you can pray for your nation as an individual. I pray for Nigeria as a person. Nigeria is a personal burden in my heart, but there are certain items of intercession that I would not want to jeopardize my life by engaging it alone. Just imagine me trying to say, I want to contend against the prince over Nigeria. That was what happened to me on campus. When one of those nights I woke up in the night, I said, today the principality over Nigeria, over BSU, you ain't working. Nobody moves. No witch will fly tonight. No agent of the marine kingdom will move out. And while I prayed, it didn't turn out too good, because there are corporate battles. So if you're going to pray for your nation, Kenya, especially in the light of what is going on now, and I'd like to let you know that what is going on in Kenya, you can't understand it from what is going on. You can't know what is happening to Kenya right now by looking at what is going on there. The hands that are working on Kenya, they are not in Kenya. They are not in, but let me not go into all of that. Have a group of persons, be a part of a church that is minded about interceding for the nation, and do a lot more of your intercession for your nation, especially at this time, from that cover. Don't, I would encourage you, don't go too far in certain things alone. There are many things that were not expected to do alone. Jesus Christ sent his disciples 2 and 2. If there was a matter that required intercession, there are 2 people on ground, and don't be a lone ranger, especially if you're going to deal with matters.
My life to Christ, and with the knowledge of altars and negative inheritance, sometimes when I pray for my baby, I don't know how to direct the prayers. Now, if I happen to get married in future, will this husband's cover also include my child, or I have to be praying against the negative patterns in my child's father's side?
That's a little bit complex, but the first thing I like to let you know, Cynthia, is this. You having a child out of wedlock does not automatically exempt and excludes you from God's program for your life. I think from 2022, God gave me a message to his body, and the tenor of the message is, tell my people to learn to manage their mistakes righteously.
Okay.
if you don't manage your mistakes righteously, you're going to take yourself out of God's program, whereas God still has you in view. You have had a child out of wedlock, you've rededicated your life to Christ. Just know that the destination that God was on in your life before all of that happened is still the destination that God is going in your life. And secondly, how a child came into this world is not as important as why that child came.
Okay.
Every time a spirit is allocated a human body from God's eternity, there is always a reason why that happened. There are many persons who are committing immorality 1,000 times and they don't get to conceive.
Yes.
And God allocated that child to you. The why of that child is more important than the how of that child. And you need to see your child. I don't know if it's a boy or a girl, but whatever the gender is, that is a human spirit carrying an errand from the Lord, packaged in human body, given to you as a custodian and as a guardian. The prayers to pray for that child is like every other child, whether the child came from parents who are legally married or not. He is like every other child. And that is why I'm saying the how is what you need to knock off right now and focus on the why. If you stay with God and seek his mind, he is going to tell you the purpose, his plans, his counsel that has been wrapped up into the spirit of that child that is in your custody. So if you're going to pray for that child, one of the books, the chapters of the books of the Bible that I find very easy to pray for children is Isaiah chapter 11.
Okay.
A rod shall come forth out of the stem of Jesse, and a branch of his root, and the spirit of the Lord shall rest upon him, the spirit of wisdom and understanding, the spirit of counsel and might, the spirit of knowledge and of the fear of the Lord. That is a very good prayer to begin to pray for your child. That the spirit of the Lord will rest upon that child. The spirit of wisdom will rest upon that child. That child, as a child comes to the age of accountability, the emotions and the sense of the purposes and the counsel of God over the life of that child will overwhelm that child. Mm-hmm. It's also good to pray that that child will not make mistakes that will affect the programs of God. You have had a story that you know what to pray for your child about. So that is a very legitimate child from God's handle, and there is a why that child came. Intercession is going to fetch you the reason why. And if you look through the pages of the scriptures, any prayer you can pray for yourself, you can pray for that child already.
Oh yes,
Any prayer you can pray for that for yourself, you can pray for your child.
Yes.
For the aspect of whether I hope you get married. It's my prayer for you to get married.
Amen.
Specifically, it's one of the miracles I've asked the Lord for. I've asked the Lord to grant me miracles of remarriages, spouses who have, partners who've lost one of their spouses who have lost their partners, and then single parents. I've prayed and I've seen that this June, I've had a remarriage of an elderly man over 60 who remarried. Yes. I've seen that miracle. And then in the month of March, I also saw the miracle of a single mother getting married. So I pray that God will bring to you a man or a godly man who will appreciate the purpose and the counsel of God that you represent. And when that happens, as this man is coming your way, he needs to know that you already have a child and you're going to discuss all of that.
Yes.
He can come into the role of a father to that child, and it's not a new thing. It's something that happens. So if the man is an understanding man, a matured man, a godly man, apart from marrying you, he also has a responsibility to step into, as it were. But if over time, maybe the father of your child wants to take custody or he wants to step into his responsibility as a father, you discuss all of that as well.
Yes. Yeah. And of course, Cynthia, we want to let you know that our prayers are with you in Kenya over what is going on right now. And we pray that the hand of the Lord will take charge and the will of God will superimpose the will of man in your country. It's about time we take a break right now. If you are still with us on this program, stay on, and when we return, we'll be opening our line for you to call in and ask Reverend Tony those questions that are bothering your heart. Stay with us.
The Voice of One TV app is finally here. You can catch up on all power-packed teachings from Apostle Aaron Osai by downloading the Voice of One TV app. Watch live stream services, video and audio sermons, tune into our 24-hour online radio, and be exposed to a variety of quality content. Have you been blessed by the anointed teachings of God's servant? Why not share your testimony with us or send in a prayer request? You can also partner with us on our various projects by sending in a donation. To download the app, please visit our website on www.voiceofonetv.org. This app is now available for download on all Android mobile devices. God bless you.
It's good to know you are still there. This is the Shepherd Staff. I am Gaby Todo. I hope you are learning something from today's episode. All right. So before we went on the break, Reverend Tony answered some questions from Cynthia from Kenya. And we are moving on to Ghana, where we have a question coming in from Prince. We seem to have a lot of international questions coming in from Cameroon to Kenya and now to Ghana. That's good to know. Prince is asking, how do I restore the purity of my heart when I realize that my heart is full of sin and lust? How do I restore the purity of my heart when I realize my heart is full of sin and lust?
Yeah, there are certain salient matters that we need to take into cognizance as we prosecute our walk with God as Christians. And one of that is where you have been.
Okay.
I used to be into pornography and into masturbation before I rededicated my life to Christ. And I can tell you that where you have been is something that you need to deal with. Your history is a crucial factor as you engage your destiny. And where most Christians make the mistake is to forget about the fact that the act of sin, whenever we engage in sin, we engage in impurities and uncleanness, obscenities and all of that, is not just an event that takes place in our lives. It's also a recording that is ongoing. Yeah. Because of the nature of the human mind, the subconscious, the conscious, the subconscious mind, there is a recording that takes place. And it is because of that that you are able to remember events that's taken place 20 years, 30 years, 40 years ago. You could just remember them vividly as if everything is happening right here and now. And scripture is very deliberate and intentional about how to deal with that. Way back in the days of radio cassettes and VHS video storage devices, if you have a Michael Jackson radio cassette, all of those his stuff, when you give your life to Christ, what we started doing was that's what you call dubbing. You record something else over that. Some years back, we had an incident where a system that we use for a graphic design was sold. And the person that bought the system formatted it, and now we needed a document from the system. We eventually got to the guy and they pleaded with him, "Oh, do we still have this file?" I said, "No, I cleaned everything. And after a lot of hard searching, we discovered that we could still get the document in spite of the fact that this guy said he had reformatted the system. All we needed to do was to take it to a technician who did a file restore. He restored the system back to a time in history when we were sure that that document was already on the system. And bam, here we had what we were looking for. That is how the human mind is. So one of the ways to deal with the things that you already have in your mind for the computer, when you say you format, you actually spread a blanket over something that is over the data that is there, so it starts storing another layer of data. But you cannot really delete a file from a computer system, from a storage device. The only way to deal with it is to destroy it. But for the mind, Scripture talks about the renewal of the mind.
Yes.
And if you go to Romans chapter 12, I read from verse 1. It says, I beseech you therefore, brethren, by the mercies of God, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, wholly acceptable unto God, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this.
A new ultra is born. Voice of One TV decoder. With an unflinching commitment to broadcast, poised with the content of apostolic Christianity, with a wide range of channel options. Our flagship TV programs cut across live services, interviews, talk shows, movies, music, among others. On board with us. For more inquiries, on board with us. For more inquiries, please call +234 912 261 6226. When the need arose to take discipleship to the nations, came Voice of One Television. And now, a new ultra is born. Voice of One TV decoder. With an unflinching commitment to broadcast.
Thank you for staying with us on the program. Is the Shepherd staff, and Reverend Tony is still with us in the studio. So Reverend Prince asked basically two questions. So let's attend to the second question. And the question is, how to avoid distractions of the mind during prayer?
That question is a little bit, is very generic kind of, but I want to assume a few thoughts into what he's trying to say. If you are praying and you notice you notice certain thoughts are coming to your mind, one of the ways to attend to that is if there are things to do, maybe certain chores or responsibilities here and there that you need to attend to, have a pen and a paper by your side. If those thoughts come, write them down, but continue praying. If, on the other hand, you pray and you find your mind wandering away, one of the things I will encourage you to do is pray out loud.
Okay.
The voice of your voice is louder than your thoughts. Anytime there is a wandering thought, you are thinking about something outside of the sphere of your prayer emphasis, pray out loud.
All right.
Yeah, pray out loud. I would encourage that you do that. Believer is an aspect of his universe that needs training. Most persons exercise their physical. So train your mind. One of the approaches that I have had and used is if I want to study, for instance, or I want to pray, my mind keeps wandering away. Set short timelines within which you are stretching your mind. For 25 minutes, I'm going to be reading without distraction.
Okay.
After 25 minutes of reading, I can take a deep breath, attend to if you stretch the elasticity of your mind, your spirit man, during prayers. All those wandering 1 hour stretch, and you have just one item. A time, if your mind is not, I want to pray for 1 hour, I can decide to have up to 10 different prayer points.
Okay.
And each of these prayer points is introducing my mind to a different thought line. About ministry is a different domain. If I begin to pray about maybe my health is a different domain. So that as you move your prayer emphasis around, your mind had to grasp them. I want to pray about my child. What am I going to pray? Is it about their academics? Is it about their health? Is it about their teacher? Is it about their friends? Is it about their marriages? That is an entire block of thought altogether. As you move from there, from ministry, from health, just don't allow yourself to stay on a particular prayer point for too long. You can work on what we call prayer circle. Okay. If I'm going to pray about the eyes of my understanding being enlightened, for instance, and I want to pray for 1 hour. I ask that, God, you grant unto me the spirit of wisdom and revelation in the knowledge of you, the eyes of my understanding being enlightened. I can pray, Lord, enlighten the eyes of my understanding in my academics.
Okay.
It's a different domain. Okay, enlighten the eyes of my understanding in the administration of marriage. Enlighten the eyes of my understanding, the administration of ministry. What about friends? It will help you to reinvent your focus regime. And then over time, instead of doing 10 minutes, you can do 15 minutes, you can do 30 minutes. And the time comes where 3 hours is not enough for you to dispense on a single burden. But it's something that you need to exercise yourself into, and it's going to take time, but it's going to be rewarding in the end as well. And the issue is, a trained mind can be applied in different spheres. If you can exercise your mind and train it to focus in prayer, that trained mind can be exercised to focus in study. It can be exercised to focus in a given task in your place of work, and now you are not stopping because it's closing time. You're stopping because you are done with the job. And this is the benefit that a trained and exercised mind will give to you. It is profitable. The profit of a trained mind spiritually is an all-round profit.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much, Reverend Tony. We wish we could go on with more questions, but our time is spent. So this is where we'll be wrapping it up for today. But just to let you know that your questions can roll in between now and next week when we'll be coming your way again. And the link to send the questions to is on the screen, rcnglobal.org/ask.php. That's the link on the screen there. Copy it down and do well to forward your questions there. We'll get them ahead of time, collect them and send them to God's servant, and he will brood over them and prepare with your answers before coming to join in the program next week. And in case you want to reach us through WhatsApp, the number is +234 70 3342 8090, +234 70 3342 8090. You could send in your questions on WhatsApp and would get them. Thank you so much for joining us on the program, and thank you, Reverend Tony, for coming on the program.
Thank you very much.
We hope that we will be here again next week, Friday, to do justice to the questions that will be coming in.
By the grace of God.
All right. All right, viewer, let's call it a day. God bless you.